Good evening. Strawberry yogurt, I really like it because it is very easy. And it's you can do a lot with it. As we make parfaits out of it. You know, you can come up with all different ideas on those. I usually make them with frozen strawberries. I imagine that you can also make them with fresh strawberries. I never tried it. Right. I have also tried it with blueberries or mixed berries before, and it tastes okay, but I do find that the strawberries taste the best. I have actually gotten this recipe from Margaret Gallant. She held one of the cooking classes at the camp meeting, the first camp meeting that I went to. And her recipe actually calls for 5 tablespoons of honey in the recipe. To me, that's a little sweet. So try it with 3 tablespoons first, and you can always add more honey if you want to, if you like. So we will start out by putting the morinu tofu in there. And this is an example package of the morinu silken tofu, and I think they have it at Walmart, if I'm not mistaken. When you open up the package, you want to make sure you pour it in a bowl first, or put it in your hand. They do have a little bit of water in it, not much, but a little, and you don't want to use the extra water. See, there, I got a little in it. You have your frozen strawberries. You let them thaw out and then drain them. Also, 2 cups of strawberries. You pour everything in a blender. It's really easy, and mix it all up. A 1/3 cup of cashews. You always want to make sure to wash your cashews because they come from wherever they come from.
Kenya.
Kenya? Okay. Yeah, so you want to make sure you wash them. And you'll see they have a lot of stuff still on them. Then a tablespoon of lemon juice. You can use either the lemon juice that you buy in a bottle, or you can squeeze a lemon in here and get the juice that way. And then 3 tablespoons of honey. And you can use honey, you can use agave syrup, you probably can use maple syrup, any sweetener that you would like. And then you mix it all up. And that's really all there is to the strawberry tofu yogurt. It is a little runny at times. Once you put it in a refrigerator, it does settle a little bit, but it will never get as thick as the yogurt that you are used to from the store.
Every one of these recipes can be used if you do want to use cheese, or you can do the alternative for your non-dairy cheeses as a special treat if you want to go low-fat and gluten-free, dairy-free. These are the alternatives that you can have. Otherwise, if you want to go ahead and use your dairy cheese, you can use the lower fat dairy cheese. We have some examples. There are some recipes that call for the nutritional yeast flakes. These are nutritional yeast flakes. They're not the yeast that you use to rise bread with. It's like brewer's yeast, nutritional yeast flakes. It has a little bit of a cheesy flavor to it. And so you're familiar with it. People use it. You can use it in a variety of recipes. These are nutritional yeast flakes.
What is that?
Where do you find those?
You can get it probably at the health food store and the Sierra Vista Co-op or Tucson.
I think Fry's and Sierra Vista carries it now too.
Do they?
Yeah, and we actually, what we do a lot, we use it as a seasoning on popcorn, which is really great.
If you want to cut down on some of your fat in your popcorn, instead of using butter or margarine, you can use oil like olive oil and the nutritional yeast flakes and some salt. It gives it just a nice flavor, a nice little cheesy flavor. Okay, and I'm going to demonstrate the meatless meatballs. And many times at parties you'll have meatballs with barbecue sauce or sweet and sour sauce. But these are non-dairy, gluten-free. We use rice in there. The first four ingredients be blended individually, but I have mixed the nuts and the oats already in here, so I'm just going to mix them together and then put it back into the bowl. And are you all familiar with tofu? I don't know if you've ever used the tofu. This is the water-packed tofu and firm, and that's what I'll be using in the recipe. It probably needs to be drained a little bit more. Well, it doesn't, it makes it like a little flour.
Are you doing the rice or the bread?
No, I'm doing the rice. Instead of the bread, I use the rice. You can use gluten-free bread or regular bread. And so you blend it up in the blender to make it more mealy. It's just about there. Okay. And these make nice meatballs.
Is that how you made those round meatballs back there with the
Mm-hmm.
toothpicks in them? They're really good.
I like those. Petra made those. Okay. And then we put the rice in. And this is brown rice. It's already cooked.
Oh,
You dip that right in the bowl.
so far, how much I should use?
At least you try.
Rolled oats, walnuts.
So I've been eating long.
Oh, thank you.
I think you'll find out if you eat them in things.
And then you go ahead and add the onion. And if you have a problem with your food not becoming completely mixed up in the blender, you add a little bit of liquid and it does help it. It assists it. Okay, now I will add the water and the rest. We'll dump the tofu in here.
Have you already put the onion in?
Yes, I put the onion in right before the water, right before the tofu. And then these are all the seasonings. I use a vegetarian chicken style seasoning. Onion powder, garlic powder, basil, sage, and then we'll use the tofu. I'll use the soy sauce. I won't use much of the soy sauce, just 1/8 of a teaspoon, so it's just very little. Sometimes I don't measure accurately, I go by taste. And there's one thing you don't do is put the spatula in while your blender is moving. You know what's going to happen? You'll have a flavor of a spatula in with your meatballs. And you can ruin the blender. But one thing about these Vitamixes, and I left mine at home, it has a plunger, so it makes it a lot easier. So we just pour the rest of the ingredients in here. And then you just mix it up. And it says to bake them. That way you have less fat. If you bake them in the oven, you can.
Anita, if you would use, like, say, instead of the rice, use the bread, would that stick more? Or
The rice is a good binder.
it is?
What I would do, either add a little bit more rice, or I would do the breadcrumbs, add some breadcrumbs. And if you are gluten intolerant, just use some gluten-free bread so that it will be of the meatball consistency. So,
May I say something?
Hmm?
May I say something?
Sure, you may say something.
When I made the meatballs, I had the same experience that you have to be careful with the water. I would start out with using half a cup of water, add more if you need it. Or, at the end you can also add a little bit more Greek oats or the oats themselves. But
Right.
I had the same problem.
Right. And, or like I said, you can use more rice or bread. But you have to experiment.
Sometimes it gets stiffer when it sits a while.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and it is getting thicker, but it would be best to add just a half a cup of water and work with that first, because 1 cup of water is a little bit too much. So I would go ahead and make a round meatball, but I'd have nothing but a splatter there because we would have meatless meat splatter. That would be a unique meatball. So just remember that when you do make them, and they're well worth making because they are a delicious meatball. And just cut back on your water and you'll have better luck.
You can make them ahead and freeze them.
And the freezing gives it a better consistency, it'll gel better. So you see it's better if you use less water.
I use my food processor to do this. And this consists of the beans, canned diced tomatoes that have been drained, a chili powder. I used garlic salt or garlic powder, and then the dried oregano. Put it in my food processor, let it do the work. The next is guacamole. Normally, if you will put the avocado seeds in it, it will stay green. But I should put a few more avocado seeds in this. Because, you know, it's just.
If you leave the seed in, it stays green.
If you leave the seeds in, after you've mixed it, if you leave the seeds in, it doesn't color. This goes next.
Just leave the seed.
You know, when I cut an avocado at home and have a half left, I always leave the seed in.
And it doesn't.
Oh,
it doesn't
that's
color.
right. It doesn't color.
It doesn't
But
color.
if you put it in the refrigerator without the seed, it colors.
That's right.
You're right.
And this has tomato and onion and cilantro all blended up. The next layer is your tofu. And this takes the place of you using sour cream. You want to use sour cream. Whole fat, high fat, low fat, no fat. I mean, I'm amazed when I go and find dairy. And it says there's no fat. And then they call it sour cream or cream cheese. And I'm thinking, this is weird. And you would sprinkle on your tomatoes. The next ingredient is chopped green onions, which my husband declares are poison.
And good. Very colorful. Festive.
All ready to go. Cover it, put it in the refrigerator. The tofu or cream cheese or sour cream that you would put on the guacamole should keep it from turning dark when it's in this situation. something on genetically modified foods. As you probably know, this is becoming a scourge. We had cornfields next to our property, and a year ago I was very interested in what happened when they were harvesting the corn. They dropped a whole area, probably an area about this size of the corn. So I was watching it to see how long it would take for it to disappear, because I figured with all the wild animals around, and the birds, and the mice, and the rats,
Cranes.
the cranes, it would disappear. It didn't. It sat there all winter. Next spring it sat there until they put the field back into production.
They're smarter than we are.
And we were sure it was, but we learned that it was BT corn. It's been genetically modified. They wouldn't touch it. They've done studies with animals where they put out genetically modified grains and non-modified grains. The animals automatically go to the grains that have not been genetically modified. They'll only go to the genetically modified as a last resort.
They're starving. If they're starving.
Yeah, starving would be a good thing. You can go online and you can get what's called a non-GMO shopping guide. Go to non-GMOshoppingguide.com. It's very interesting.
Repeat
They
that.
tell you what genetic modification organisms are, how they're made, why you should avoid them, tips to avoiding them. Tip 1, buy organic. Tip 2, look for the non-GMO project seals. And that's a rectangular box where the non-GMO project is in blue. Verified underneath is in green, and you've got a monarch butterfly sitting on a leaf.
Repeat the website.
The website is non-GMOshoppingguide.com.
So if you have that butterfly on the leaf, that is definitely non-GMO.
Non-GMO. It's with the non-GMO project verified. And that website is non-GMO project.org for them. And then the third tip is avoid at-risk ingredients. If it's not labeled organic or verified non-GMO, avoid products made with ingredients that might be derived from GMOs. The 8 GMO food crops are corn, soybeans, canola, cottonseed, sugar beets, Hawaiian papaya most, a small amount of zucchini and yellow squash. And GM alfalfa is now being sold, raised, and fed to livestock. Now, if it says sugar, if it's a non-GMO product made in North America, list sugar as the ingredient, not pure cane sugar. You're probably going to get a combination of both the cane sugar and the beet sugar. The beet sugars have been modified. They're genetically modified. Then tip 4, of course, use your non-GMO shopping guide. And with that, it gives you alternative dairy products that have been verified by the non-GMO project. Okay, and it's quite a list. You've got alternative dairy, you've got baby foods, you've got beverages, you've got body care, you've got breads, candy, chocolate, sweeteners, cereals, breakfast bars, just about everything that you have. It's listed there. Which ones do not use the GM foods, modified foods? Now, you're going to the supermarket and you're going to go looking for fruits and vegetables. If you look on the PLU code that's on the fruit, That's the price lookup number. You'll notice that it has 4 numbers. On this particular one, it has 4131. 4 means that it's grown conventionally or traditionally with the use of pesticides. The last 4 letters of the PL code are simply that what kind of fruit and vegetable. For example, all bananas are labeled with the code 4011. Now, if there are 5 letters in that code, and that first letter is an 8, you are buying bananas that have been genetically modified. If it's a 5-digit and it starts with a 9, it's organic. So your organic banana would be 94011.
This is found where? On the little tag on the
On the little tag on the fruit. So if it's 4 numbers, it's conventional. If you've got 5 numbers, code 8 means you've got genetically modified food that you're looking at. If it has a 9, it's organic.
But most people won't put 8 on it.
I think they have to in some places.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's a code.
It's a code, you see, and most people don't know that, but there's something to look for. If it's organic, they're going to label it.
Have they messed with tree nuts yet?
They're thinking about it, and almonds is the one they're thinking about messing with.
Almonds are thinking about radiation.
Please.
So with radiation too.
Yeah.
Well,
Somebody had
Everything.
somebody had a scare with almonds.
Salmonella.
They found salmonella, and so instead of looking to see what the source was, if it was something that was widespread or just a small incident, they started yelling that they should irradiate it.
Completely messes up the nutrition of it.
And it's all done that way?
No, I don't know how much of it is done, but there is apparently some that's been done. California's one that got panicky.
They've also mixed the salmon with an eel.
Yes. Well, if you're going to use salmon, do not buy anything that says Atlantic salmon on it. It's all farm raised. There are no wild Atlantic salmon.
You don't want to know what they feed them either.
I know what they feed them.
Yeah?
Human waste.
No way.
They feed anything that they think the fish will eat, they'll feed them regardless of what it is.
Why is it so important that we don't consume?
Okay. What they have taken and put in there depends on the company. Monsanto is the biggest culprit in this field. They can put in a bacteria, and they say, well, this way we can put it in. They can now use the sprays, like Roundup. It'll kill the weeds, but it won't touch the plant. Well, there's a fallacy in that. If you spray your garden or crop, and then you water it, where is that left off spray going to go?
Water table.
Well, it's going to go to the ground. The roots are then going to absorb it, and a lot of that pesticide is going to wind up in the food. I saw a very interesting demonstration. It said they had 2 lovely ears of corn sitting on the table, and the presenter had a large container of an herbicide, and he dipped one of the ears of corn into the herbicide and took it back up, and he says, now, which one of these ears of corn would you want to eat? The one that I didn't dip or the one that I did dip? Of course, you would not want the one that was dipped with the herbicide. And he said, these herbicides go into the ground, the roots take them up, they go to the food you're going to eat. This is why it's so important to not get your genetically modified foods as possible. You've got with your milk the hormones that they feed to the cows to make them produce. Those cows have a very short life, where they should go maybe 3 or 4 years. Most of them are not going more than 2 years. They're totally worn out. However, you put that hormone to the cows, it gets into the milk. Guess who gets it next? Humans do. There is some thought that one reason why we have so many young girls maturing so early is because of the RBGT that is in the milk. And of course they said, well, it can't happen that way, but I don't know.
Boys too.
Boys, yes, and boys too.
I'm trying to.
This is not healthy. We used to get milk from a neighbor. The kids got to the point where they didn't want to do any more milking, and so they gave it up. But before they started using organic milk, they were buying the regular milk in the store when their cows were dry, and they noticed that their oldest girl was developing too fast, and so they switched to organic milk. But I think a lot of the health problems that we're looking at in our kids, in adults, some of these things have caused cancers in rats, and I figure if they're going to cause cancer in rats, there's nothing from stopping it for causing cancer in humans. We have more cancers going on now than we've ever had.
Cancer's rampant.
It is, and I frankly think it is tied to what we eat.
Autism too.
Yes, autism, ADHD, ADD. They don't want to admit it, but yeah, I think a lot of it is tied to what we eat.
Our autoimmune diseases as
Yeah.
well. And all is linked to what we're taking in, especially with milk that has the hormones.
Yeah. I mean, I never heard of some of this stuff growing up. I didn't hear about it when I raised my own kids. Or when we were living at PUC and we were teaching a class in practical country living, we had cows, and they got milk every day. But we didn't see any changes in our kids. We raised the hay. It wasn't genetically modified hay either. Never heard of the stuff at that point. So I think it's important for us to read, to ask questions, and when you find out that there's something that you would like, and you find out that it is genetically modified, don't buy it, protest. Here's the thing. Monsanto and the FDA have an incestuous relationship. Lawyers that have worked for Monsanto are now working for the FDA. People that have worked for the FDA are working for Monsanto. So you can't trust government agencies to protect you. You have to read. There's a lot of information on the internet that is truthful, not truthful. You have to wade through a lot of stuff to get to the bottom of it. But read and compare. And the more people that will protest by not buying genetically modified foods will put the heat on them to pull it from the market. Because if your store can't sell it, they're not going to want it. And here's the other thing with your genetically modified foods. Most people will say garden their seeds. Some of their plants will go seed. They save them for the next year. You can't do that with a genetically modified.
I just encourage all of you to be aware of what you buy in the store. Be aware of what's on labels if you look at boxes. And if you can't pronounce the word and the ingredients, you know it must not be good for you. But it has this great big oxy blah 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 blah, and you know very well that it shouldn't be taken into your body. because we do have results and we do pay by eating inferior type food. And it is becoming harder and harder all the time to be able to find food that has the nutrition in it that we need. So I just encourage you to be very well aware of what you buy. Someone was asking about the rose, the tomato rose. It's very, very easy. The secret is to be able to cut the tomatoes so that you don't break off the long stem. Have to make sure that you cut the tomato skin in a circular shape. Make sure you keep it. First time I ever did it, it would break. So I had to piece the tomato together, the tomato rose. So you just go on around until you decide how big of a rose you want, how small of a rose.
I have a sharp knife.
Yes, this is a Cutco knife. It's one of the best knives I've ever used. Thanks to Petra. Okay. And it doesn't really matter which end you start at. But you just go on around. Just make little circles. Sometimes it wants to slip out. Just keep on rolling it.
Turn slightly towards the camera, please. Thank you.
Until you have it in a circle.
Nothing else, you can always use super glue, right?
Use what?
Super glue.
Sure. You can use super glue. And then you have your tomato rose.
Wow.
So, oops. Put it in my hand. It's really easy.
Just hold it this way, please.
And you can use different other vegetables, but the tomato seems to hold the best. You can do carrot curls by putting carrots that you've done with the carrot peeler or potato peeler. You can use potatoes, but they're white, so it's best to use something that is a color and then put them in ice water. You don't have to worry about putting the tomato rose in ice water. And there's green onions. You can take the green onions and just cut them where they'll kind of curl at the top. Put them in ice water and they'll even curl better. And then make nice garnishes. It's fun to do little things like that to make your holiday table special. Okay? Any questions about anything?